In this lesson, this is just a basic the basics of a simple web page. I got an extra div in there. Let me get rid of that. Well, today's lesson is basically placing images inside a web page. These are different than background images, so let's go ahead and let's get to the basics. IMG is the tag we need to use. SRC is simply the source. Hey, where can you find this photo? I'm just for simplicity purposes, I will assume the photo and the web page is exactly in the same place. // if you want to go directory above, or / put the file name on. But anyway, for now, we'll just put I've got a photo here, a Superman.jpg, which I've used before. There you go. So that is the basics of a web page in which I've placed an image. So Control S, file save, and then simply click here on ABC, and then there you go, have your photo. Okay, first thing I want to talk about is adding, I want to control the photo. Right now the photo is quite large. Why? Because the photo is quite large. Is how it was made. I want to control that photo. So we go over here, and some of the basic options are obviously height, and I can't spell it, height, say 100, width, these again will be in pixels, 50, height plus equals. And then also I want to talk about is alt. Alt is simply sort of like title with links. It's going to be some text that will show up as the cursor goes over the photo. A lot of times, if this is done professionally, it'll be a copyright, People magazine, etc., etc. I'll say my photo. There you go. So let's here Control S, refresh, and then my photo here is Superman is quite small. There's two really theories here. Most of the time you're going to if you know your photo is going to be small, rather than have the photo look squished like that, you're going to shoot it with the resolution so it looks like 10 by 50. But again, this is an option where you don't know exactly the size of the photo. The browser will go ahead and it'll force it into whatever size and dimensions I specify here in your HTML command. Okay, next thing I want to do is make this now a clickable image. So I want this thing not simply to sit there as Superman, I want to actually use it as a link. So what we do is we take basically the code that we learned from the last lesson, href, and then stick, rather than put click here for a Reddit, we're just going to put our IMG Superman JPEG, our photo in it. So let's do http://www. We'll do Reddit. Well, Yahoo. What it doesn't matter here. .com. End quotes. And then I need to put my /a end of anchor down here. I'm good to go. Okay. Now Control S. What's going to happen here is let's double check. Control S. Shrink down, and then refresh. Now you'll instantly see that you've got this number one purple little border. Okay. Now because this is a link, it's going to be purple because why? I've probably visited Yahoo before. I probably did it in the last lesson. So it'll recognize it as purple, so you get that option. If you don't want to do that, all you need to, let's double check to make sure it works. So anyway, I can show you how to remove that. Border is equal to 0, so click, make sure we get the Yahoo. Yeah, good. And we can use all the standard options with the link, like attribute blank if I want to open up into another window. Next thing I want to do is get rid of that border. If I want, especially for a clickable image, let's go back here and simply specify the border is equal to 0. So let's go ahead and do that. Border is equal to 0. Control S. Now it will look, even though it's clickable, the little purple outline will go. Off it goes. So next thing I want to talk about is I'm going to go back here. I'm going to remove it. Remove the link here. I just want a plain border as it is. So let's go ahead and do that. So I want a border of, I don't know, 50. Okay. So let's Control S, refresh, and refresh my web page. Now I have a border of 50 pixels around my photo. Well, by default, the border is black. My photo, for the most part, is mostly black. So I want to be able to control the border color. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go back here. I'm going to do it in the style command, img, border dot color, and then you all have. I'm just going to do green. You have all the. You can use hex, HSV, RGB, all the usual color options you've got besides simply color names. There you go. So now what I do is all my photos will have a border color of green. Classes get used a lot with images. Why? Because a lot of times I don't want all my borders green. A lot of times I'm going to have several photos and they have different appearances and different looks and different sizes within a web page. So it's very common to have some sort of class rather than declare it all to an ABC. So declare it to an ABC. That's what I was thinking ahead of what I'm talking. So let's go ahead and I can create a class, ABC, and I want to do border dot color is red. Okay. So let's go ahead and do this. Control SH. A refresh. Now my border is green. So if I decided I want to use a class, I would simply go ahead and do image equal image class is equal to ABC. Now Control S, refresh, and now my background will be red. Okay, there's a few more options within that will control within this. That's why I wanted to give a quick example of using a class inside with IMG. Okay, next one I want to keep on going. Next one I want to talk about is I want to change the placement. I want the photo to be, for the most part, we'll start with centered here. You've got it several ways you can do it. You can do it either within a div. Let's do image style. Text. You can get away with text align. I'll show you another way. But if this is, unless you got some grids or you got a super weird layout, 9 times out of 10 this will work. So let's go bump center, and then /div. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead, Control S, refresh. My photo now will be centered on my web page. The other option here is using margin. So we can do that. We can do it up in the style command here. So we'll do the two things you really need. Technically, you need margin. Should be auto. And then width here now will be the width of the element, or in this case, the web page, 50%. Okay. So now what's going to happen? Let me get rid of my line over my line. I'm going to get rid of my delete here. And you'll see that the image is still aligned. Control S, refresh, renew. Okay. Oh, it did not. Let's go back. Shall type my work. Margin width 50%. It overruled it. I am surprised. That's what I wanted to talk about next. I'm going to do display block. Let's see if this does it. Repair margin. Did I spell it right? Width. Yep. Good. Okay. Control S. Refresh. There you go. Now it's aligned 50%. Now that was not quite what I wanted. Margin auto, display block auto with 50%. I expected this to be overruled, but it did not. So I'm going to find out what is. Okay, I'm just going to keep on going. My thought here is here I'll explain my thinking. The margin here the width should have been affected by this margin. I did not expect, and I expected this width of 50 to overrule this. I was a little bit surprised that I got that. I just did it in a class about a little bit ago, and it worked fine. So I'm not sure why all of a sudden now it is not. Let me I don't want to spend too much time. I know this is going to be a long video anyway, because of all the stuff that we need to cover. I don't want to spend too much time messing with this. Go back. No, 50%. Now go back with 50%. Semicolon, Control S. Refresh. Okay, but it's still margin auto probably centers it then. So margin auto probably centers it. That'll give you the center, and then I just did a width of 50% now. Okay. So a minor question here is I would have thought the inland style inside the attribute inside the IMG would have overruled this, but apparently it didn't. Anyway, we'll just keep on going here. Next one, okay, so that's how we center an image. The next one I want to talk about is rounding an image. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and do border radius. Okay, I can obviously do whatever I want here. I can put 8 pixels and Control S, refresh, and ABC. There you go, click on it. And now I've got on my corners a rounded radius. Okay, the rule of thumb here is if you have no border, the rounded radius will round the images of the photo. If you're so let's go ahead and do that. Let's just prove that that's true. So let's go ahead and set the border, get rid of the border. I'm just going to make the rounded radius here a little bit bigger, 18, so we can confirm that it works. Control S, refresh, and then yes, it takes the round. It's because my width is at 50%. It takes my rounds the edges of my of my photo. Next thing I want to talk about is you can also do it by percent. See, I don't really know what what is the size of the image. I don't know. So what happens here is let's go ahead and put 50%. And say I don't know what the photo is. Hold on, 50%. I'm going to get rid of the height and width here. So it'll be back to a big image. And then Control S, refresh. And then, yep, I get my image with rounded. Okay. So anyway, rounded radius, or border radius, give me that look. I can also do it by individual item. Okay. So what I can do is I can individually go ahead and do this. So let's I'm going to go back here. I can do this by front left, front right. So I'm going to do border radius 50%, front left radius. I'm just going to define a number, but I'll put maybe 25 px. There you go. So Control S, refresh, and my web page. There you go. Whoops, nope. Border left radius. Let's double check. Border. Oh, not front. That's top. Sorry, my mistake. Top left. My typo. Okay. Control S, refresh, and then I get, nope. Border, top, left. Am I spelling everything out? Border, top, left, radius. I am not sure unless you want a border. That shouldn't matter. It should have just affected the photo. Equals 20. Control S. Okay. It is rounding that one corner. Maybe it only affects the image. It may be. That I'll have to change my notes. I thought it would also affect the image just like the border radius. Oh, it did. I think. Yeah, it did. It changed the image. Okay, I just didn't notice it at first. I'm going to go back here, just double check. I'm going to remove that. Make it, because probably the photo's too big, 50 pixels. And I'm going to remove that border. Again, you can put, just all I want to point out here is you're going to change each of the individual corners. No, it doesn't work. I got to have a border in it. So I didn't know that. So let's go ahead and put a border in here. Now I want to also show you a website, border radius generator. So let's go over here to Chrome, border radius generator. Now I like this is my personal preference. You want to check out the first two. These two you got to type them in, and I don't sort of like that. So let's go to border radius generator. So what you can do here is you can go ahead and simply by using the mouse, I can just casually go, here's my general radius, and there, and I can go do whatever. I can obviously put a preview color if I want to see what it looks like, border color, whatever, and width of that border color. And also the nice thing is it'll give you this CSS code. Really quickly, you'll notice that a -MOS, hey, you only did border radius and border top left radius. What are all these other additional lines? Moz, -Moz is for Mozilla, and then WebKit is for Safari. So this allows it to write the code, the CSS code, so that some of these options on border radius affect more than just Explorer. So I just discussed Explorer. Okay, a couple more things. I know I'm running late on this video. I want to talk about transformation. Next thing I want to talk about, hey, Korea, that's cute. I get rounded. I get radius. Great. Next thing I want to talk about here is transformation. So let's go ahead and do that. We can do this. We can rotate a photo. We can do whatever we want. We do it by transform. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. Transform. But if I do it here, when we get to animations later, I don't have to bother. First one is simply translate. So I want to simply move this photo 300 pixels by 500 pixels. Okay. So let's go ahead, Control S, refresh. Hold on, I didn't put the semicolon on it. Translate, did I spell it right? 50 pixels, yeah, I spelled it right. Okay, and then Shift A, Shift S. I'm getting rid of the space there, but it shouldn't matter. I'm done with this, and then let's refresh our web page. Yep, there you go. The border's changed, and I've shifted my photo down 350. Hey, what's the advantage of this? The advantage of this sometimes is later on when we come to web animations, I can actually get this photo to move. So for now, translate. Why didn't you just set the if you wanted to move 300 pixels left or 300 pixels down? Sometimes. Why do that? Just put the photo there. It allows us to later on do some transformations. Okay. Next one, especially when it comes to animations. Let's go back. Another one, common one, translate is to move. Next one is to rotate. Rotate. Okay. Clockwise is 90 degrees. Counterclockwise is -90. So next one is 90 degrees. 90 degree DEG. Control S. Oops. Control S. Refresh. And now my photo is back, but flipped 90 degrees. Okay. You can also skew left, and skew right, and scale. And there's actually a couple more matrix transformation, but I'm not going to get into it. All I'm going to do here is go ahead and maybe do skew. Skew. You can do it as X. You can do it as Y. If you just do skew, you need to provide 2 degrees. So I'm going to just skew it on Y, maybe whatever, 30 degrees. Okay, so if you're doing simply skew, you need to provide X and Y. But if you just want one, Control S, refresh, I can skew my photo 30 degrees. Okay. So there is another option that does not work, as there's 3D transformations where I can rotate on X and Y axis, but at this time for this Explorer it does not work. But just something to be aware of. So hopefully in the next year or whatever it'll be coming up. Next thing I want to do is go back to I want to go back to another thing. I've got my rounded photos. I'm going to go here to my border art. Border radius generator. I'm going to go back to my CSS plant. There's something else I'd like to talk about. Clip path. I'm just going to show it to you. It does not work for us here with Explorer. I'm sort of stuck with this does work for Chrome and Mozilla. Clip art will eventually, I assume, come to Explorer as they try to fashion these mask type effects. They have to eventually implement them in Explorer. But right now, I'm dealing with Explorer 10. It does not work. I believe I just checked it. It does not work for 11. So eventually, it's going to get there. Anyway, you can create all kinds of shape with it. And the nice thing is, it allows you to prevent you again. Again, this is traditionally really hard. What kind of shape do I want? I don't know the exact pixels, left, right here. This is just an option. You can just like the border radius, you can start to play with it and then find out. Oops, because I moved the cursor. You can play with it and then copy the code, and see if that's exactly what you want. But it gives you a good starting point. For us, we're going to have to end up using. It does not work in Explorer, so we're going to have to use Fireworks. That will be a separate video. Is how to make masking and mask type images in Fireworks. So I'll just do that as a separate video because this is run already too long. So that will be a separate video. So be back in a minute on Fireworks and masking in HTML.